Hi, my name is Dr. Timothy L. Henry. I'm a doctor of dental surgery and an award-winning lecturer here at the University of Texas at Arlington. I teach courses in biology. I also teach honors courses in bioethics, biomedical ethics, and that ethic actually has a lot of impact concerning our one book by Bill McKibben. Bill McKibben makes 3 points in his first chapter that he tends to cover throughout the book itself. The first has to do with the politics, in that the more dependent we are upon hydrocarbon fuels, the less the majority of people benefit, and those that do benefit are fewer and fewer. And of course that's incongruent with what we consider to be ethical. And the second point that McKibben makes in the book is that the environmental impact is decreasing the health not only of ourselves but all other creatures that tend to be dependent upon the environment. And the third one, which is a little more ethereal, is that we've discovered that the more and more we accumulate in material possessions, the less happy we actually are. I want to go back and address the first concept. There are a lot of people who are convinced that our dependence upon hydrocarbon fuels will tend to go on forever. Now, we know this isn't true. Who knows it isn't true? Science knows it isn't true. Not being a renewable resource, our dependence upon hydrocarbon fuels is and will be depleted within how many number of years? Well, we don't exactly know, but we do know that it is a limited resource. Consequently, we need to change that particular dependence, not only because, as I mentioned earlier, it causes damage to the environment. It creates an inequality among those that have, the very few, and those that have not, the majority. And if this continues, it will also have implications on third world, not only just first world, but third world and second world nations. When we talk about inequality, we not only need to look at the inequality within our own country, but we need to look at the inequality across the board. The second point has to do with the balance that nature provides us and how we currently have an imbalance that basically is caused by human beings themselves. About 90% of all living organisms that ever existed on this planet have gone extinct. And the reason for that is abrupt environmental change. If we ourselves choose not to become extinct, we need to do something about the environmental change that we are causing today. There have been 5 major mass extinctions throughout history, and we are in our 6th one right now. And it is due to science, as science tells us that it is due to ourselves. There are more animals that have been on the endangered species list or have gone extinct within the last 100 years than have done so in the last million. I like to look at our planet like I look at the health of individuals, because they are interdependent. Just like we are dependent upon other animals and ourselves are dependent upon our environment. Our health is dependent upon a homeostasis. That is, that within parameters, health can have certain amounts of change. If the change fall outside a certain parameter, we call that disease. And of course, if it stops altogether, we call that death. I like to equate homeostasis with a man standing on a board on a ball, like Cirque du Soleil. He's always in constant motion within the ability of that balance. If he goes off balance, again, we call that disease. And if he falls off and stops moving altogether, we call that death. If you look at your environment, there is also an equilibrium, a balance, if you will, between the cycles that basically maintain the health of our world. There are carbon cycles, and nitrogen cycles, and water cycles, and on and on and on, that are out of balance because of man's misuse, abuse, and disregard for his own environment. Environmental stability is essential. When we look at health, A crisis for a patient is when that patient either begins to improve or begins to decline. We're at that point right now. Our world, our nature, our equilibrium is at a crisis. And this particular crisis is caused by humanity itself. And I don't say this just because I am a bell ringer or trying to, you know, rouse up people. It's because science says so. If you look at some of the rabble-rousers on right-wing radio, if you look at the motivation behind their appeal for people to try to move away from sustainability, if you look at their motivation, it's basically financial for themselves, not for others. If you look at the scientific evidence, science is based upon open inquiry to evidence. And open inquiry to evidence says that we take the information no matter what the answer, no matter who it benefits or who it hurts. And by doing so, then we can take steps, if steps are in order, to improve the problem.